Good evening, one and all, and welcome to the Georgetown Tea House. Tonight, this is the When Last Show number 2, and in the When Last Show, we're exploring the customs, the arts, the culture of yesteryear. With me are my buddies, Pablo Jiti and Alfred Adams, all right? So,
Please, thank you,
fellow
sir.
friend, share. We're going to be talking about the music of Dave Martin and the Tradewinds and today. And in terms of our customs, we'll be discussing porridge. Now, when last you had a hot cup or a hot mug of good old porridge? All right, we're going to talk about what was your favorite porridge, with the porridge you couldn't stand, and
Yeah,
yes, and of course, when last you had some parts because this
yeah,
is the When Last Show. So we're going to begin with something from the Tradewinds, and please do tap your feet, clap your hands, and sing along, because like the Tradewinds said, is we own.
And I just want to tell you briefly that this song is a song that came out of a fete we played in New York about 3 years ago. Maybe some of you were there, I don't know. But it was a night when it was a magic night. It was a Guyana night, and people were nostalgic about Guyana. And I was moved by it and went back to Cayman and wrote a song. We come across the Caribbean Sea, mother, father, picnic, and we settle down in GT. Why ho! We sat down in the pouring rain, in the hot sun and the sugar cane, and we planted the rice and cane. Why ho! Yes, we take off the boots and we put on the roots. Why oh? So remember the crabwood that grow in Essequibo is real. And the 6 o'clock tea and the sake rinky is real. And the lava that run from Govaya gun is real. And the Wallaba post on the quarantine coast is real. I hear the Bundari crab is real. Truly Benab is real. Human Ayana is real. Fry Corina is real. Arapaima is real. Human Ayana is real. Whether Grove or whether Pleasance, we know the Pagua and Confidence, and we know how to wine and prance. Why oh, and we celebrate Diwali, and when it's time for Mashramani, it's party, party, party. Why oh, yes, we know how to fet till we underwear wet. Why oh, and so the crabwood that grows in Essequibo is real. The 6 o'clock tea, the sake rinky is real. And the lava that run from Govaya gun is real. And them all of a post on the quarantine coast is real. Partner Pelus is real. 5 finger juice is real. Human Ayana is real. The Simatu vine is real. And the masquerade wine is real. Human Ayana is real. Listen to me, chip, sugar cake, and saltfish and bake is real. Mutton curry and 2 perlaury is real. Or be a nice black pudding and rice is real. Coconut metachi and wiri wiri is real. Babu Lala rich and with the quota in the hand is real. Alexander Willie and the blue dashiki is real. Frankie Muniz and the boom boom cheese is real. And the fella in tongue named Lee Funky Funk is real. The fellas in the tree watching cricket for free is we own. And the brother in the night preaching Jordan night is we own. And Mary and Paul up on the seawall is we own.
That's
Yeah.
great. Dave Martin is
Yeah.
beyond. Alfred, the music, well, of course, not being, a bona fide musician, I can't identify the actual chords, but the progression, I felt it, especially when he opened there, without the full band and thing. What are your thoughts on the music, Alfred?
And then the band came in. I was wondering if we would have done him more justice if we had played the studio version.
Okay.
It's because I could hear some dissonance, and I know when Dave goes around, he picks up some guys, and it could be a situation where they didn't get to rehearse as much, but I did hear a little, but not to take away from the story itself, know, because it's only somebody who's like a nerd like me would be hearing these types of things, but Dave Martin and his stories, like he was saying, he was somewhere in New York, and he was
at the folk festival.
He was at a folk festival, and he was inspired to write this song. Now, not criticism, but the first few lines, to me, I think he was saying how we got to Guyana, which is kind of strange to somebody like me. If you guys, maybe I misunderstood it, but to me, that's another one of his great compositions and for some reason, the things that he writes, the Guyanese people can latch on to, and they feel that is their own, everything that he writes, his Guyanese-ness comes out, and the bounce in the music, and his expression is we own, and the kids up in the tree watching cricket, that's we own, and that kind of thing. And folks can relate to it. It's another one of his great songs. That's it.
I like the lava that run from Govaya gun. You gotta be a great writer and a great observer of life to put together something like that. What are your thoughts,
a great storyteller.
Yeah, the storytelling jumped out at me. Not only that, but the tropical essence of the music and his lyricism around the music jumped out at me. And it reminded me of a poem that I did live to an American audience. And the host of the show said, I like the way you talk because it gives me a tropical vibe. So when I listened to Dave Martin there and his band, it just exude the tropics. And it having read his bio a little bit, doing some research before the show, he grew up in kind of rural Guyana, close to nature, bouncing around West Dem and that type of stuff. A small boy like Alawi, not necessarily of means, so he was connected like we were to nature, talking about Saki Winky and Wiri Pepper and all of them kind of things. So it informs his writing, So that really jumped out at me, and it's absolutely a classic.
Right. Now, Alfred, being a Guyanese, looking at Guyana, what's that one thing? Having been, living in this part of the world, having grown up in Guyana, what's that one thing when you think of our people, our culture, our land, that you will say, okay, this is distinctly Guyanese. There's no other place on the planet you're going to go and you're going to find. What would that one thing be for you?
This is gonna surprise you guys. Banas.
The word
banas.
Yes. The word banas. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who started it, but there's no other place on earth where people use that word.
Banas. So what about the female version? Or you've heard the female version before?
Well, I think the female version came as a sort of response to the male version. So when I was growing up, it was Binny, it was Binticus, it was all these different versions. But to me, that's the one thing that if I'm going down the street and I hear the word Banos, I know there's a Guyanese somewhere around me or somebody who's been around Guyanese because I have a lot of friends who are not from Guyana, but from being around me, they use that word all the time. I know there's a host of things, there's a host of things, but that's that one word. And being like a storyteller myself, and I have to write something around that word at some point in time.
Okay, what about you, Pablo?
Well, for me, there are definitely many words. Words like bradaps, godi, and even the S word,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we can say skunt on the show, right?
Well, they say that in the Virgin Islands too,
Yeah. And then in the Virgin Islands, actually they do.
But
They
the
say just like
meal, the indigenous inspired meal, pepper pot, right?
Yeah.
Other countries have pepper pot, but it's not our pepper pot.
Right.
I think it's unique. Guyana, it may also be in some of the indigenous communities of the bordering countries like Venezuela, Brazil. I don't know, but my limited knowledge tells me that the way we make the pepper pot, and there's two kinds of pepper pot: the Tuma pepper pot, right, which your buddy told us about. Was that Carol? Alfred?
Yeah.
Tuma pepper pot,
she
and
knows
then
the
the
various
dark,
types.
which is a lighter pepper pot, and then the darker traditional pepper that we all know with the dark rip or burnt sugar. Right. That is a unique taste that a lot of foreigners have to acquire. My wife is still I'm not sure. But my son, they love it,
Yeah.
So that would be
it is an acquired taste.
And I think the name is probably fully Guyanese. I don't know, but you're right. I think indigenous people, because it's a method of cooking whereby you start a pot in the yard, you go out on the hunt, and you put the meat in, and you keep the pot going. So I would imagine the indigenous folks around the Amazon probably, but call it something else. But I'm sure there's some parts of it that's unique to Guyana. Or Bombri say yummy. How about you, Andy? You're asking us. How about you?
Well, I mean, you identify a particular word, but for me, it's our language, and essentially the way we speak. All right. The few places I've traveled to, the movies I would have, heard. I haven't encountered anyone who speak like us. Right.
Okay.
But the irony of it too, though, I don't know if you guys have had this kind of experience, is that sometimes with some of us, if we say in an environment where there aren't many other Guyanese, and it's some other Caribbean people or some other American people or whatever, they have a difficulty in figuring who we are and where we're from, right? Because like in my wife Marcel, she often has a situation where there's some people who think that she's Trinidadian, there are others who think she's Bajan. All right, yeah. So our way of speaking sometimes really do trip people up.
Yeah. No, I hear that, and you're right. And it's the inflections. It's there's something that comes from the ground up, and it's from the unique experience in Guyana. Some of these, I remember there was a time when we used to, and it came from a police chief somewhere reading something in public and saw the word chaos and pronounced it Chautik. I don't know if you guys remember that.
The great Joe Braz. Traffic chief. Said said its situation is Chautik.
And that word just spread in Guyana, Jack. Everybody started saying Chautik from then on, man.
Yeah.
Chautik. Everything is Chautik.
Okay, folks, you're watching at the When Last show. All right, we're going to be going into our folk conversation. Today we're talking about porridge.
Mm.
So when last you had a hot cup or a hot mug of porridge, think about it, and we'll be back in a few seconds.
Remember your boyhood days, remember your wayward ways. Come, let me go down memory lane, check out them days again. Remember learning how to ride a bike.
So Pablo, were you a lover of porridge?
Absolutely. And my porridge story has to do with rice pop. Now, my sisters did not like, I have two sisters at home with me that I grew up with. Some more outside, but that's another story for another day, outside cheering. But my two sisters at home despised the stuff that I enjoyed rice pop so well.
Mm-hmm.
So because rice pop meant that is the end of the month and money short, things tight. So you gotta count the number of obstacles in the pot. You can't get milk powder because milk powder done. But so my mom would make rice pop because the money is not there, and that would be dinner, and that would be the happiest time for me. So my mom loved that. That to me it was like a treat, But to my sisters, it meant we were poor.
Yeah, they understood. They understood like the reality.
Exactly. But I was like, rice pop, all right. Yes. I was happy. So that would be my little thing.
So that's your favorite? Okay.
Yes,
what about you,
sir.
Alfred?
Yeah, I was, growing up as a little kid, I wasn't a fan of porridge. But what I used to do, I used to take the Quaker Oats and mix it with sugar.
Right. And carnation milk.
Well,
or just sugar.
Well, no, dry with sugar. And I used
right. Well, we used to do it dry with sugar, but also
with carnation milk.
Add some carnation milk.
Yeah, but the actual porridge, when it's cooked, I was never a big fan of it. But I got to tell you, like not until I moved to the United States and I acquired a taste for porridge, and I started to like, wow, I can't believe I wasn't into this thing as a kid. And it just feels as though it's good food going into your body, especially when it's hot and it's sticking to your stomach, you get a cup of porridge and you're good for a while,
Right.
But porridge was a serious thing in Guyana, man. Serious.
Yeah. So in terms of where you grew up, Pablo, what kinds of stuff y'all would make porridge with? Outside of the rice.
Outside of the rice, of course, we had barley. You had sago, right? Quaker Oats would be a treat. When the barrel come in the end of the year, you Quaker with the same Quaker Oats that you have right now.
Yeah.
But that was a special treat, you know what I mean? Barrel come,
Yeah.
Or you got some friend with family in the States or Canada to send back something, and you happen to be over there this Sunday morning, and you get to say, come and taste this foreign food here,
Yeah, man.
But for us, it would be barley that I remember, sago, mainly. Those were the two main things other than the rice pop. Maybe a little what's the other one called? A creamish powder kind of what's it? It's like almost like a corn. Like
cornmeal?
A cornish.
Not cornmeal.
Cornmeal. Right.
Cornmeal.
So like a cornmeal porridge and thing. That's You put some carnation milk on it or some condensed milk and thing.
Condensed milk.
Yes. You stir it up.
That condensed milk is a whole different. I used to eat that with bread.
Wow.
You used to take the condensed milk.
Condensed milk and bread.
So you sound like with plenty porridge, Andy.
Probably you tried that condensed milk and bread?
Condensed milk and bread. I'm yet to try that, but I know I have I remember when my mom opened the can of condensed milk and it take over over the top.
You just lick it.
Yeah, you just lick it, take your finger, or you lick it off.
You can't let them see you licking it, but you still take a lick.
You can't just see licking it, But that was nice to like put in your tea. And another unique thing that we did was we said tea is everything. I tell my wife, my wife is American, so tea for us back in my time there was no tea bag. Of course, there was bush tea as a separate thing.
Yeah.
But for me, tea was hot water, milk, and sugar. That was it. That was tea.
Yeah. Tea to me was like anything hot.
Right. There was the Guyanese thing. Anything hot in the morning.
Anything hot that you pour in and cool it with two cups.
Yeah,
tea.
That was tea.
Yeah, kind of like Pablo said, bush tea used to be defined as tea or black.
That's a whole different kind of thing.
Bush tea or black.
Not black, Of course, you get coffee. You get coffee tea too,
Yeah.
Like Milo tea, Ovaltine tea.
Well, as long as it's hot, it's tea, man.
Yeah.
Interesting. And you see, that's the thing, like going back to unique about Guyana, And I'm pretty sure because of the influences, the African and the Indian influences, maybe in Trinidad and I don't know which other would be as much, not Jamaica as much, that would be African, but because of the influences, I'm sure they do a lot of the things that we do,
Right.
Except the accent came out different,
Right. The thing about porridge, though, porridge is very much an international meal. It's one of those meals that would have upkept a different civilization.
Oh yeah,
it's the thing that carry people through good and bad times. I just never like you are. I just never like the look of the cooked porridge. Something about cooked
kind of
porridge.
Yucky. It looked kind of yucky. But let's say you're in a war or something like that, and rations are low. It's things like porridge be pulling people through, man. Condensed milk.
Alfred, you got company. Camila King is saying condensed milk and bread tastes wonderful.
Yeah, man.
Quick question: you guys used to toast the bread or just?
No. Especially when my mother used to make some serious homemade bread. Serious. She'd make homemade bread like on a Sunday morning. By Sunday evening, it's all gone. And somewhere in between there, you gotta like. And it used to come out real slow, You can't be stealing condensed milk because it's coming out slow. And you just put it over the slice of bread and you're gone.
You're watching the When Last Show. I'm going to take you guys back. This is me and one of the members of the When Last movement. This is back in 2007. And you guys, tell me if you know what this guy is talking about there. This is William. And we call him Bunter, William Bunter Jackson.
Some balgo. Balgo.
I know about the one. You got to tell your audience about the one.
Balgo is where it's called flower pot. Flower pot or balgo flower pot.
Break it down.
Sometimes you get the whole wheat flour or the white flour, you mix it up like if you're going to make teacher girl bake. Teacher girl bake?
This is the one with the sugar and water.
The sugar, water, and flour, you mix something. When you do it like that, and then you boil it up like porridge.
Okay.
And what movement?
And any spice and... We're going to put essence in this one?
This one here, you're going to put essence and you're going to put a little clove and...
Nutmeg and things.
Yes, because remember now...
It's for the back?
It's for the back.
Okay.
When you don't charge up there, you could face a lion.
So what kind of milk you would put in your balgo? Straight cow milk, powdered milk, carnation milk. What you would put in your balgo?
The best thing for balgo is carnation milk.
Okay.
But all the cow, we got a couple cows in the back there. They make no sense going and buy carnation milk. I just use cow milk.
Balgo.
teacher girl bake.
Yeah, man, I didn't know that's what he was saying. Teacher girl bakes. I mean, I wonder how that name came about. I guess it's a kind of fancy bakes or something. Like it's a teacher girl bakes as opposed to, I know, a non-teacher girl bakes. What's a teacher girl about?
When Marcel is saying she loves to experiment with food, but no condensed milk and bread.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Balgo, you're not familiar with flour porridge?
Yeah, man.
I ain't think so, I just remember the Quaker Oats porridge.
Okay. Cause the thing about porridge though is that I mean I think you could use basically any kind of cereal and any kind of grain,
Right.
and
make porridge with it.
and make porridge with it, right?
Yeah.
The teacher girl bakes. What you guys call it back in your part of Guyana, Pablo?
Well, we have the you have the regular break, which has a thicker consistency, right? So when you say bake, you're talking about that bake that you would buy now in the shops around.
No,
America,
you got the float bake,
You got the float bake, right?
Nice, right?
But
the,
then there's that,
the teacher girl bakes, or some would call it poor man bakes.
right?
Teacher girl bakes, poor man bakes, sweet bakes.
Sweet bake. We call it sweet bake.
It's just basically sugar, water, flour.
Easy to make. You just
Right,
throw that
sugar, water,
mixture.
flour.
Yeah.
Some of us might grate a little if nutmeg there, you might grate some nutmeg inside it.
Yeah.
Right.
Give it a little flavor.
All right, we getting some of the other names of the bake.
Oil bake.
Oil bake.
What? Soft bake.
Susan Thomas says soft bake.
No, that's SOFE, Sophie. Monkey ears.
No,
bake.
I think she made a
Danje.
Danje said monkey ears bake. Wow. Yeah, he come and gave it soft bake too. Right.
So how these things? I mean, I guess there's a
Alfred,
slight difference.
Alfred, you know about this one. You last, but the teacher girl bake.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could. Yeah, I wonder why teacher girl bakes. But I wonder, there's got to be some subtle differences between all these bakes. Like the soft bake and the teacher girl bake. So sweet bake. Here we go, sweet bake.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
The thing is we would call a knock-up kind of bake, and I think different people just give it different names. But essentially the poor man bake. We had some Bajan friends, and this is what some of them call it, poor man bakes.
Right.
Yeah, man. My mother used to make bakes. Sometimes we lashed with salt butter. Y'all know what salt butter?
Of course.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, salt butter, maybe some saltfish, every now and again,
Definitely.
You got the Christmas time, you got somebody got to store all that salt out the butter. That was my job. Storing for days.
Well, no, I ain't want to start another conversation, but I was gonna get into picking rice. I know y'all know about that, right?
Yeah, man.
So what you guys think about Bunta's contention that Balgo good for the back?
Good for the back. So many things good for the back,
Well, sometimes all it takes is the thought that it's good for your back. So there is,
The back thing that I know about the most is when you take evaporated milk, egg, and Guinness.
Right.
And you mix it. I think it's called a Coke or something like that.
Yeah. So some people and the Jamaicans have a mix close to that too.
Yeah.
Guinness and I think Guinness, peanuts, condensed milk, and a couple other things.
Well, in Guyana we used to use evaporated because that was the not sweet lighter version, right, of the milk.
Right.
And you put that with some Guinness and some ice in there, and you put like a little bit of essence or something like that. I used to hear that was the thing that was good for your back, but I can't tell you that.
As a kid, I remember hearing the big boys talking about steel drops.
Steel drops,
Papadula, but I've never actually seen it. I've seen Capadullo, but I haven't seen Steel Drops. I was wondering, what is this Steel Drops?
Yeah. You know, but it's good for your back.
You won't believe what is steel drops. I learned about what it was, you know, growing up like you guys, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, but them guys going by the coconut water stand. And when the other coconut water to tell the guy
With steel drops.
put some
Yeah,
steel drops. But steel drops was actually what's the word? The word just escaped me. But it was a steroid used in horses.
What?
Wow.
Yep.
Look at that.
It was a
What
steroid
did you
used
what
in
it used to do to the horses, man?
I don't know exactly, but that I was doing a story at some point and was told that it was steroid.
Wow.
It's actually a steroid.
Well, I never used the steel drops that much, you know.
Me is. It doesn't not that much.
Not that I know of.
Not enough.
Bitters.
Yeah,
I know them used to say bitters and them kind of thing, but the steel drops,
Steel drops.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some guys religiously had to get it
Steel
And you know
had
what
to
is
get the steel
scary?
drops.
I remember on a Labor Day parade in Brooklyn, there was a guy walking around with these bottles, right? And he said the steel drop from Guyana, and it was well labeled. It had,
Wow.
you know, so
Wow.
who knows, man? You got to be very careful.
You know, that
Buyer
must be a
beware.
flame.
You know, buyer beware.
Like you say, in the mine, people would buy that up, man. You know.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, you're looking at the When Last Show at the Georgetown Tea House. All right, we're looking at the music of Dave Martin, and we're gonna play another one for you. This one is titled Copycats. And even if you know the lyrics, tune in again. Listen, because we're gonna have an in-depth conversation about what Dave Martin and Tradewinds sing about here. All right. So here is Dave Martin and the Tradewinds, Copycats.
West Indian people pretentious. I don't know what is wrong with we. We like to believe we are Englishmen, Canadian or Yankee. You take a Trinidadian straight from Togo, fly him to New York City, and by the time he clear immigration, the man already talking Yankee. His suitcase full of pigeon peas, but he talk like he born in Los Angeles. Freezing in the cold, but he buy an umbrella and digging soul. So you see now how Rome wasn't built in a day. I'm sure you will agree. But put a West Indian in New York City, overnight he become Yankee. A Yankee will live 10 years in Antigua, still talking rank Yankee. But a Guyanese live 2 weeks in Detroit, hear him, what's happening, baby? An Englishman will come in your country with a cork hat and a cane. And 6 years after, he's still saying, rather, going home on the plane. But here he West Indian friend, oh George, do come and see us again, old chap. And the fool only drinking tea, like his mother make him in Piccadilly. So you see now, boy, Rome wasn't built in a day. I'm sure you'll understand. But put a West Indian in Ontario, overnight he's a Canadian. In Ottawa I met a fella, a very well-dressed young man. He said, you know, I'm from Jamaica, but I spent a fortnight in London. When if we end up talking like Englishmen, when we live in England, how come them Englishmen in the West Indies, they don't say God blind Leicestershire. And here they Vincent John. Oh, that's super, super. And this clung in Westminster. I'm on 2 weeks leave here from St. Lucia. So you see now how Rome wasn't built in a day. I'm sure you'll understand. But put a West Indian in Nottinghamshire overnight, he's an Englishman. Oh, but please don't get the impression I have something against the Englishman. And I don't have no chip on my shoulder concerning Americans. It's just that the Yankees don't say, God blind skipper. And think about this also. You will never hear an Englishman declaring, boy, I just hug up me beanie so. Therefore, I cannot see why, instead of today, I must say today. And don't give me no damn muffin. I grew up on cassava and green planting. So that even when the maker calls, I will be this way. I'll go walk into heaven, put down my roti and say, walk me there.
All right, the great mighty Dave Martin and the
Yeah,
Tradewinds
man.
copycat. Before we chat about that, let me remind you guys that coming up on the corner this week is this young man.
Now you know. Say yeah. Teddy J on the beat again. Sometimes the pressures in life is real, and you need to get away. Hey, so why don't you come take a trip with me? Yeah, something like a holiday.
All right, that's Terry J. Pablo just talk about
Yes,
that.
man. We are thrilled to have Teddy J. He's just 24 years old, but he's super talented. So this Saturday, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time on Facebook Live. You can go on my page, Jamie Pablo, or you could go to Pablo's Creoles Corner, which is facebook.com, Creoles with the K, Corner with the K, 2021. Like, follow, and get notified when we go live on Saturday. Teddy J is ready to go. He's excited. He's super talented. He sent me his bio. He's also a producer. He has his own studio in Kokwani. So, and he's also an entrepreneur. He's a barber. So, but more about Teddy on Saturday. Can't give away everything, you know? Yeah, man.
All right, that's Saturday, Pon the Corner.
The V40 mic drop. Yes, sir.
Yes,
All
as
right.
you know, as it was fading out, the clip,
Yeah.
the last line that he said, you know, that one took me something like a vacation, you know.
Yes,
when he
yes.
said that,
Something
it
like a
just like put the whole
holiday.
thing together for me. If you listen to the clip as
Yes.
it's fading out, he says something like a vacation.
Yeah. Something like a holiday.
Like a holiday, or is it
Yeah,
vacation?
yeah.
Like a
Holiday.
holiday.
Holiday, yeah.
Yeah, I love that, man.
Yeah. Copycats. Let's talk a little about accents and, you know, adapting and changing. Alfred, in your experience coming to America,
Mhm.
did you find yourself making any adjustments in your accent, in the way you spoke, or maybe around certain people? What was your experience like?
I never tried. As a matter of fact, I tried not to sound, and as far as I can remember, I tried not to sound like an American, but I think over time, because of the environment that you're in, the way that you speak, it changes. And especially if you're in a job where you have to interact with folks, you know, and every now and again folks are saying they don't understand what you're saying, it kind of forces you to like modify certain words. I remember one word in particular that I used to get all kinds of jokes about is the word Coming from Guyana, you say vehicle, vehicle.
Mm.
I don't know if you guys agree with me, but we would say that's a vehicle. So I used to go out and do like some training and stuff like that, and then I would say that word, and people would make fun of it. So I had to adjust it and say it the way that they say it here. And now I say vehicle, vehicle, as opposed to vehicle. You know,
Yeah.
but more than anything else, I always wanted to communicate, but I always wanted folks to know that I was from somewhere else. So I would always make sure that folks would know that this guy is not from this country. So that's been my experience. I hear what he's singing about, and I think maybe he's pushing it to the extreme. But there are people who like change their accents to and it's so obvious because you can never speak like if you're from Guyana, you try to speak like a let's say a Black American.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna show, and it's gonna be a comedy show. You're just not gonna sound right. So no matter how much you try, because it's in their soul. The things that they do, the inflections come from your experience as a kid, and that's
Right.
why we speak like Guyanese naturally. That kind of with that kind of flow, and other people can't do it. It's
Right.
because and so you
I think
can't.
Dave though was Dave was particularly talking. There got some guys would go away for a 2 week a
Yeah, and come
holiday,
back.
but because it was the states they went to,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
When they come back, they got to make you understand it was the states.
Well, how
Them
about the
being
guys?
them, them being Springland or nowhere like that. They
How
went to
about
the
the guys
states.
that never left Guyana? I know you know Afar, right? You know Afar, right?
Yeah, I know Afar. Yeah, the
Yeah.
late Afar.
Man, yeah, Afar back in the late 70s. When Afar speaking is like straight up like he from the United States, and he never left Guyana. So they had some people who didn't even have to leave Guyana to speak like that, man.
Yeah. Yeah, they and in the case of someone like Afar Alfred, what do you think is happening there, emotionally, culturally, that makes that person live there?
Yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, when I was growing up, we had this little radiogram, and it was SW1, SW2, SW3, it's like shortwave radio.
Yeah.
And I used to go and I used to press SW1, and I would turn the dial very slowly. And as soon as I hear something, I would listen to it, and I was always like taken with like Radio America and all these different channels and how these people speak.
Mm-hmm.
But I never like tried to speak like them. I was just interested in the rest of the world. I think a person like Afar, he knew about America, and he was so taken. He was a dancer too. Um, and he wanted to be in entertainment, and he was so taken with being like a foreigner that it kind of, as a matter of fact, he developed some mental issues, and eventually he passed. And one of the things that sent Afar off was he tried to learn the dictionary word for word.
Wow.
Word for word. Afar tried to learn the dictionary word for word. And after a while, it just kind of messed with him, man, and he left, But there was one incident with Afar when he was dancing, and I was there. I was there as a kid and watching, and he did a split, like James Brown does a split, and he
Yeah.
hurt himself,
Ouch.
and people were trying to get him to pull him up, and I heard Afar say, "I can't get my shit together, man. I can't get my shit together."
Ah.
And everybody was like, what is he? This is a guy that never left Guyana.
Mm-hmm.
But even in that situation, he was still, doing that stuff. It's a mental thing.
Right.
I
Okay.
mean,
What was your experience like, Pablo, in terms of coming to here? Did you find yourself changing accent, adjusting?
Well, let's start with being in Guyana. It was always a fascination. We saw the American movies, the black exploitation. Most of the movies that we saw kind of give us that sense that America and England were the places to be. Plus, we were dominated. We were in this. We were oppressed, former
Yes.
oppressed people who felt that, in fact, we internalized that oppression. So what we have was not the ideal. In many of our minds, we were educated that way. You had to go to England or go to America, and you have to speak like these folks, and that meant that you were better than the rest of us, right? So there was that miseducation and that brainwashing, whatever you call it. And so, but for me, when I first came here, I remember being someone who liked to ask questions in class. I was like a front bencher. So, no, I was actually a backbencher this time, in this occasion. I'm at Tuskegee HCBU in Alabama, and I'm in the back bench of an auditorium filled with about 200 mostly American students. And I at the back of the class, my thick Guyanese accent. Excuse me, sir. What do you mean by photosynthesis? Right, something like that. And all heads turned around to watch me, right? And I remember the feeling of feeling like, I am so different that even though I'm speaking standard English, because of my accent being so thick, that people were distracted by that. And so over time, as I got out of college and as I continued in college and got into sales, I then kind of modified my words so that I could be understood, because the purpose of communication is to be understood. And so if my audience are Americans who are not familiar with the Caribbean accent, I've got to be careful, either speak slowly in my Caribbean accent or modify some of the words. Instead of saying tomato, I would say tomato, right? So for me, it was out of necessity to be understood. And so that would be my experience. But I wanted to tap in, if I could, on Dave Martin's song.
Go ahead.
Right. So one of the lines said, "Bonner got a suitcase full of pigeon peas, and he talking like he from Los Angeles," right? So the end rhyme is there, but it's smooth,
Yeah.
And the overnight Yankee description, that's very popular. One personal story, my brother, my sorrow boy, went to London for about 5 days, then came back to visit us. So of course he's dating my girl, my sister, and my niece was there at home. She was about maybe 10 at the time. So the Bono, I talking, yeah, what going on, boy? What going on, bro? And the man turned to Faye and said, Faye was supposed to go to the bathroom, like about going to take a shower or something, He said, Faye, aren't you gonna have a wash? He said, Bono,
no shame.
what is wrong with you? You went to England 5 days. You talking about Faye, aren't you gonna have a wash?
Not just Faye. Faye?
Yeah. So that was a big joke for me, man. I was like, whoa. So that epitomizes what we're talking about here,
Right. Thinking about Dave and what he was jokingly singing about. When do you think that kind of copycatting, Alfred? When does it become dangerous? When does it
I think we sort of experiencing some of it now with in music, right? So all along we're speaking about copycatting Yankee, Canadian, but a lot of the copycatting across the globe actually is of the Jamaican accent, right? So, but for some reason, because it's Jamaicans, we don't see it as copycatting, But I remember a time in the 70s when we all wanted to walk like Jamaicans, talk like Jamaicans. You walk with your chest up and this kind of what go on, and then that kind of stuff.
Bad man.
We all, but I think what has happened, because reggae music is so famous and popular that the accent has become a part of the genre. So you find guys coming out of Guyana, coming out of Trinidad, Barbados, wherever, they would speak to you like how we're speaking now. But as soon as they start singing, they're using this Jamaican accent that has become a part of the genre, and so along the way they could lose a little bit of identity, and so but they're driven to do it because this is their path to success.
Yeah. We're gonna as you bring it up, we're gonna look at that in a deeper way next week.
Okay.
Yes, it is something to talk about. For us to question, is it a professional decision? Is it about authenticity in terms of the art form? What drives, and what I would hope for, I'm going to try to reach out, is to find one of the younger artists,
willing to
and
discuss
ask
it,
them,
man.
why, why they push towards that, and using that accent. But in terms of Caribbean accent, Guyanese to Guyanese will take up the Bajan accent if they're in Barbados.
Oh yeah.
They will take up the Trinidadian accent if they're in Trinidad, right? So it's, but I was talking and sorry, and in terms of Guyanese picking up these accents, and you guys could tell me what you feel about this, but Marcel was earlier pointing out to the fact that a few people, a lot of people, Guyanese in these places, are illegal.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe absorbing the accent is a way of not being noticed.
Standing out, yeah.
Right. You can't easily stand out. What do you think about that, Pablo?
That's survival. Oh,
Right.
go ahead, Pablo.
So that's something about, as Alfred said, it's about survival. I don't have an experience living illegally in the islands, but I do have an experience living illegally in America. Right? So yes, and I knew, 1 year in America, 1 year that I could never sound American, and so, but I can at least modify the way I enunciate certain words, So yeah, for sure, I can see that, because I think it's easier for us perhaps to mimic a Trini accent or a Bajan accent or a Jamaican, than it would be a full-fledged American accent, quickly. That would be my thing. So I can see that definitely being a way of surviving. Not standing up.
But the Bajan accent is hard, I actually think it's easier to do the American accent than it is to do the Bajan accent.
Yeah, I think Bajan accent is the hardest. Even a Jamaican accent is even easier to do than of course my grandparents coming from Barbados allows me to say stuff like "I so glad y'all come out here for this show tonight." And I could go into some of that stuff, but then it's limited. After that, I can't say nothing else.
I feel if you immerse yourself, like for example, when I was in Poland, right, speaking a totally different language in terms of its structure and everything, just a whole lot of hard consonants, S and Z's and stuff. But when that's all, you have to learn it to survive, right? Because the people there don't speak English and the teachers don't speak English. So you have to learn Polish. And so if that's all you're doing, then over time, even the way you enunciate, for me, it sounded like the Polish people, as close as I could sound like a Polish person.
How long did you live in Poland?
2 years. Right. So we had to learn the language the first year, and then, and then there were people for whom it was hard to lose the accent of their native land when they're speaking Polish, right? But the smoother you sound, the more Polish you sounded in your enunciation of each word, the better you were understood when you were asking questions or presenting something or that type of stuff, So, and some people did that naturally easier than others. For others, it was hard to lose that thick Ghanaian or Nigerian or Guyanese accent when they're speaking Polish. So the same dynamic, I think.
On the subject, Andy, what would be awesome would be to have, I guess, something like this, but you have a Jamaican, a Barbadian, a Trinidadian, and a Guyanese speaking in their own accent, and then trying to, just talking and trying to see if we could find where the similarities are. If there's any common kind of things.
That
would be interesting.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay, folks. So it's a wrap. Thank you all guys and all the gentlemen and ladies in the comment section, the banners and beanies in the commentary section. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for taking the time out and commenting. All right, and do check us out next week. We'll be taking a deeper dive into this whole accent thing and why we do it. And we'll be looking particularly at the artists, right? In terms of adopting an accent. And in terms of our folk side, we want to look at false names. So please get your pen and your pad, all right? And we want some false names and we want some stories behind the false names, all right? Like this here. All right, so let us know if you know any of the stories behind those false names. We'll be getting some false names as of next week. Gentlemen, thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, just quickly before you go, I just want to clarify something because earlier when I was speaking about the artists, I personally don't have a problem with someone making a business decision. Because if you're a reggae artist and you grew up listening to like Capleton and these guys, it is sort of inevitable that if you want to sound like Capleton and be influenced by him, that you're gonna slip right into a Jamaican accent. So I don't have a problem with those kind of business decisions. So I just want to make that clear. That
that's what we want to discuss. When is it a business decision? When when does it add value to you as an artist? Or when does it take away from you as an artist? We
at what point?
We have to look at right. I've known. I'm not going to say the name of the artist, but they've let's say a Trinidadian promoter, all right, is having a Caribbean show, all right, and he or she's taking artists from 4 or 5 different islands, and one is Trinidad. If you're a Guyanese and you sung Trinidadian, they're not going to want you. All right, and this has actually happened.
Gotcha.
Right? They're not. So it's we got to think of it in that way. We can sometimes be sympathetic towards maybe this accent may get me listened to quicker, right? But then look at some of the more successful Guyanese artists. Did they change their accent to become successful?
Yeah.
Right.
The pros and the cons.
We gotta look. So we're gonna take a deep dive into that next week. So folks, this has been the When Last Show at the Georgetown Tea House. Do join us again next week. Do tell a friend. And please do not forget to come and hang out on the corner this Saturday. All right?
Yes, sir.
And there the master of ceremonies is the man at the top there, brother Pablo Shitty. All right? The corner is the V40, and we've got a talented young man in the form of Terry J. All right?
That's gonna be hot, man.
Folks, Thank you so much, and
Sure,
we're
sure.
out.